Hello there and welcome to the Business Weekly Show on Citi TV. My name is Michael Ogbodu. It's good to be back on your screens and I can't believe it's a week already. This week in particular has been very eventful with the State of the Nation address and the budget presentation for the year. We'll bring you all the highlights of all of that and all the other news that made the world of business this week. Grab a snack, preferably a made in Ghana one, as we take you through on this business journey. Are you ready? Let's go. Today we get to apply the saying ladies first by kickstarting the show talking about women. Don't we all love and appreciate our mothers for all the care, support and love they give us? But you though, what did you do to appreciate the women in your life as the world celebrates International Women's Day? Well, we got to spend some time with market women in Accra to appreciate what they do.
Ghana is one of the top 3 countries in the world with the most female entrepreneurs. Unfortunately, her businesswomen are not able to scale their businesses beyond the informal sector, where they operate micro-sized ventures. Most of these women, like Margaret, engage in entrepreneurship to take care of their families.
Me a single parent.
Mary Danso, an agri-business entrepreneur, has been in the industry for over 15 years, but has not been able to grow her business beyond selling on the side of the road as a result of unfavorable terms with wholesalers.
Property.
20 years ago, Agnes Opoku started buying gallons of detergents to repackage and retail at an affordable price. She has still not been able to grow her business.
Na first, parazono yetumi fano drum no, ya fano 7 million, any 6, any 5. Say ya fa palazzo 1 million, drum yellow no, ya fano 9 million. And see, so to idea 1 million now to 1 CD, 2 CD, 5 CD. Da be no be bua saska na ma obenya ni raska.
Each year, millions of dollars in Ghana's agriculture sector is lost to post-harvest losses, robbing entrepreneurs of profits and further shrinking their businesses.
What about a chapter a billet 2 days when I say? It is the idea go better who be biama omo ye farms akese no. Ebedi and someone aka achaka class na say.
In an era of COVID-19, where customers are more conscious of the presentation and hygienic conditions of their products, owning a shop or a stand at Accra Central gives entrepreneurs a competitive advantage over those who sell on the roadside.
Store your $80 mean to me and $2 ni bi. And a marketing in so no obiaji or not the bear rent or no beji unsika. And to fashion who benyano na de bia na odi tua.
After being unemployed for 9 months as a result of the closure of schools, Margaret returned to work to meet customers with very little disposable income.
Almost camera chrome. SS Cabba chrome. Says Cannibal chrome, I am so ready for. Ya who bet me a high cacra. Says can new chrome. And so be a tad and pokra neddy. Just so be nearby a co school. Who could be best at 3 months or buy socks back or pissing. And not Toma Colano. Now, we says can a biniho, and also never na honum beson. Until I don't know, yeah.
Fundraising is an essential part of business growth. It grants entrepreneurs patient capital to grow their businesses while building their confidence. Unfortunately, the fear of recording losses inhibits some women, like Agnes, from accessing the funds they need to scale their operations.
Me highest loan na mafani 20 million. Me highest loan na mafa. Esan say me dia mahoden besono. Enu na say menji. E bia makwaji 50 million. Na sabi ade an contem. Na bia every week I say minchi 3 million no. Menya say aban beche me.
Very interesting challenges shared there. I hope the gender minister is watching. Well, to our next topic, President Akufo-Addo and the presentation of the State of the Nation address. You know, it's an obligation by law, but we know also that this isn't actually his first year in office, but it's actually his first year in his second term of office. Let's find out what the president had to say about where we are currently as a nation.
President Nana Akufo-Addo has pegged the growth rate of the Ghanaian economy for the year 2021 at 5%. This is higher than the projections of the International Monetary Fund (IMF) for Ghana for the year 2021, which stands at 4.2%. Another Bretton Woods institution, the World Bank, which projected a 1% growth in economic activity in 2020 due to the COVID-19 crisis, is meanwhile expecting Ghana's economy to grow by only 1.4% this year. But in his first State of the Nation's address for his second term in office, President Akufo-Addo expressed confidence in the ability of government's 100 billion cedi Ghana Cares or Batampa program to spur growth.
Government expects economic activity, which has already picked up, to do so even further following the ongoing vaccination exercise and the easing of restrictions put in place to curb the effects of the disease. We expect GDP growth to rebound strongly this year to nearly 5%, above the IMF's 2021 January projection of 3.2% growth for Sub-Saharan Africa for 2021. The medium-term outlook supported by the implementation of the Ghana's Cares program is bright. We are confident that together we will emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic with a stronger and more resilient economy.
Touching on various aspects of national development, including energy and the formalization of the economy, he stated that all national identification numbers will become tax identification numbers from April 1, 2021. Also, from the second quarter of 2021, all national ID numbers will also become SNIT numbers.
Government has granted policy approval for the establishment of a national flag carrier, a home-based airline with strategic partner participation. The House will be duly informed on developments in this area. Construction of the second and third phases of the Kumasi Airport, the second phase of Tamale Airport, and the rehabilitation of the Sunyani Airport are all proceeding satisfactorily. A decision on the siting of the proposed airport and the central and western regions is imminent. Mr. Speaker, in the energy sector, the National Energy Policy 2020 has been completed to improve the framework and strategy to meet contemporary needs, energy needs of the country. The government has improved the financial sustainability of the energy sector through several interventions, including paying up the energy legacy debts that you left. Furthermore, negotiations with independent power producers, the terms of whose contracts entail substantial financial charges on the state, are ongoing and should be completed by the end of the year. This should result in a more affordable cost of power for the Ghanaian people. Under the National Electrification Scheme, a total of 1,436 communities have been connected to the national grid, which has increased the national electricity access rate to 85.17% as of October 2020. My ambition is that by the end of my term, the figure will be 100%. For the first time, we have enrolled 15.5 million people onto the national ID card system, the Ghana card. And we will complete the process this year. From 1st April, and this is not an April Fool's prank, all national ID numbers will become tax identification numbers. In so doing, the number of people registered by GRA from tax purposes will increase from the current 3 million to 15.5 million. I should recall that at the end of 2016, only 750,000 people had TIN numbers. The increase to 15.5 million in just 4 years is simply phenomenal.
Well, you've heard the president there with the State of the Nation address, but did you hear what he had to say about the economy? The president says the Ghanaian economy will grow by 5%. Now, that's a very bold projection, especially when globally recognized institutions are predicting lower rates. Well, I'm not an expert to know how attainable his vision is, but we spoke to an economist, and these are his 2 cents on the president's vision.
According to the president, the government's 100 billion cedi Ghana Cares or Batampa program, in addition to other measures, has the ability to spur the Ghanaian economy to grow by about 5% this year, a rate much higher than the projection of the International Monetary Fund (IMF) for Ghana for the year 2021, which stands at 4.2%. While noting the need for cautious optimism with the president's growth projection, in an interview with City Business News, Courage Mate of Databank highlighted the pivotal role that the manufacturing sector can play in helping government achieve its ambitious growth target.
The first point to note is that the economy contracted in the second quarter of last year and in the third quarter of last year at least. Now, based on these contractions, this low base has been created and it will serve the basis for calculating the growth rate in 2021. And when the base is low, the change is higher. And so just on the basis of statistical phenomenon, a favorable base effect, we could see growth rebounding strongly in quarter 2 2021 and possibly in quarter 3 2021, and that could support the average growth for 2021. But having said that, if you also look at the sectors that contracted last year, one of the key sectors that contracted is manufacturing, recording an average contraction of over 5% during the first 3 quarters of last year. Now, that means that just as the economy continues to reopen, manufacturing activities, normalization of activity in the manufacturing sector should take place, and that should support growth. But then again, if you look at or listen to what the president said, there is the plan to start investing under the Ghana Cares program. Manufacturing sector is penciled as one of the sectors that they want to start investing in. So it means that if government invests in the manufacturing sector, not only would normalization of economic activity results in a recovery in growth in the manufacturing sector, but the additional investment in the sector should propel growth even stronger.
Commenting on the growth projection for the economy ahead of the budget presentation on Friday, Dr. Patrick Isuming on his part said he is confident Ghana's economy will grow stronger than it did last year at a rate between 3.5% and 4%. Any projection above 4%, however, will be optimistic.
I think 2021 will be much better than 2020 because we hopefully by the second half of 2021, hopefully the COVID will be behind us, so that the economy is expected to recover. So I think in time past, when I've spoken to you about the growth target, I've mentioned that something around 3.5. So, I will still expect that, maybe it appears that in my estimation, we are getting the vaccine earlier than I initially thought. So maybe we could revise that one up a little bit. If I saw a growth projection greater than 40, I would say that would be probably too optimistic. Growth projection more than 4%. I would say that it's probably optimistic, but maybe 3.5 to 4, I think it might be achievable.
Now, away from the State of the Nation address, we move to the budget presentation. Were you able to listen? I'm sure you heard beforehand that it wasn't presented this time by the finance minister. But well, what stood out for you in it? Before we even go into the budget statement, let's we engage some stakeholders on their concerns and expectations. Well, we'll start off at the port. You know, freight forwarders have been in the news for a while now over their concerns with regards to an increase in tariffs. Can you guess what their expectations were?
One of our major problems right now is with the shipping lines and the rate at which increases are affecting our businesses seriously. And this the government has to seriously take a look at, because it will definitely affect the economy. At the end of the day, we are the ones who go to the market to buy, and the traders would not, they're not Santa Claus, so they're not going to, take away these charges. It will all go into the pricing of your goods, and we are the ones who are going to buy. And this does not augur well for the economy. That if we could hedge a particular, exchange rate for a period, if it's for quarterly or 2-month period, it could help the trading public to plan ahead, okay? So that one could factor, what exactly their costs will be in the trading space, rather than have the weekly, exchange rate, fluctuations, which does not help very much to plan.
This is one of the things. It's because the shipping company sees that the laws governing, the laws regulating them here in Ghana is not more punitive, it's not more biting. The Shippers Authority, as we speak now, doesn't have a law that says, okay, based on ABC in our law, we can revocate licenses. We can repatriate a general manager of a shipping line who is flouting our laws here. And so I will be surprised. I was surprised when the president came to the Parliament and did not make any statement concerning this issue. These are very issues, because that is the way forward to more investors come to Ghana. Now that we are on African Continental Free Trade, we are expecting more cargo to come. And so if we are expecting more cargo to come and our port is expensive, after importer has paid, or exporter has, of course, it's not affecting so much export, but import has paid freight so much to a shipping company, then you get to Ghana here, and I'm coming for release, and you're asking me to pay release, first release, second release. It doesn't encourage, it doesn't make the country attractive, it doesn't motivate investors to always want to use our port. And so we are here to make sure we protect that. But yes, we are doing advocate, but we need a law.
Ghana has a 2 million housing deficit. The irony is that when you go to places like East Legon Airport Cantonment, there are hundreds of houses that are empty because people can't afford them. Well, the good news is that stakeholders in the sector believe that housing should be affordable, but they say they need government's assistance. I think we should critically look at their concerns. The Ghana Real Estate Developers Association says it expects a policy on the production and use of local materials in the construction industry. According to the association, this will in the long term reduce the cost of building in the country while creating jobs. Sami Amegaibo is the executive director of GREDA.
We haven't done much in that area, so we need to encourage local industries, empower local manufacturing, empower our local guys to take up the need for our housing inputs. If we do this, we will then stop the over-reliance, the foreign exchange issues, and all of that. Apart from that, job opportunities for our boys. You can be guaranteed that they will get a lot of job to do. So we need to localize our inputs. If you look at a building, even doors, if you go around and watch the real estate developers, we have wood in this country, but most of the doors we are fixing are from either China, Turkey, or Europe. What does it tell you? It tells you that there's something wrong with the local doors, okay? So why don't we establish factories here that will rather use our own raw materials, produce it, that will be cheaper, because we take the raw materials out, they put value on it, bring it back, and then we pay import duty to bring what we already have locally. I mean, these things are not right. We don't have any particular sanitary ware company in this country that I'm aware of. And yet, when you build a typical one house, we'll be fixing at least 4 or 5 WCs. And it means that all these 5 whatever WCs are imported. We say we are contributing over 45,000 housing units a year. multiply it by 5 and check how many number of WCs that are imported in this country annually.
For the Ghana Chamber of Construction Industry, clearing of debt owed by government will be a key item to look forward to. The chamber has over the period raised concerns about the delay in payment and in some cases non-payment by government for projects its members have executed. It also called for capacity building of players in the sector.
You and I are well known or well aware that the budget, as we speak now, is something that we have been longing for. The reason being that we have an understanding that need to be captured in the budget that has become an anthem. So it's very good that the minister nominee then, who is now a sector minister, was saying in Parliament that we don't have capacity. Thank God he has been approved and then he has been sworn into office. So therefore we are hoping that he will make provisions for capacity building for the contractors, for them to be able to build their capacity in terms of financing, the plant pool, as well as technology aspect of construction, so that we will see how best at least we can put our resources together and then go for a bigger contract as he claims to be.
Executive Director of the Alliance for Social Equity and Public Accountability, ASEPA, Mensa Thompson, believes the issue of access to affordable housing must be urgently attended to.
Principal of the issues is the citizens' access to quality and decent housing. As we grow as a country, as we move towards economic prosperity, one of the key things that we look forward to achieve, or you want as a government to achieve for your people, is access to decent housing. It's one of the things that will ultimately improve your life expectancy and goes a long way to affect the quality of life of your citizens. There's still a huge gap with respect to the citizens and their access to housing.
Some members of the public have also been sharing their thoughts of the expectations for the sector.
The government can regulate the price of housing and maybe make the landlady and landlords understand that this kind of house is going for this amount and this kind of house is going for this amount. Don't take much of the expenses, or don't take, if they are like you are not cool with the renovation, and or don't let your client do it, or don't let your tenant do it.
I was in SHS. I learned these houses Nkrumah was building, or Kufuor was building, for less amount of money, so people can be able to afford accommodation. If they can complete all these places, I think it will be able to help a lot of people. It will also go a long way to helping those who can't afford these expensive houses.
Certainly, affordable housing should be done. Social housing, something that everyone is entitled to a decent accommodation. So. It is something that has to be done. Yeah, it is critical. Yeah, it is critical. Everyone needs, a decent accommodation.
I agree with you. Indeed, everybody needs decent accommodation. Now, in 2019, it was a successful year of return, and a lot of businesses were looking forward to a better year in 2020. But around this time last year, COVID-19 struck, causing a lot of these businesses to run into losses. Now, ahead of the presentation of the budget on Friday, we interacted with some of these businesses and they shared their challenges and their expectations with us.
As the country prepares to listen to the first budget presentation of President Akufo-Addo's second term in office, various players in the service, industry, and agricultural sectors are looking forward to interventions and policies that will protect their interest. AHR is the founder of the Shop Accra, a company that grants over 300 local Ghanaian manufacturers direct access to market.
I don't think there is enough research being done by government to understand what is needed on the ground. I really don't. Nobody have come to ask me any questions, and I think of all the 300 and 400 people that we work with, I don't think anybody has asked them questions, And I think what really was important and what I was wanting to see before this budget even goes out was a comprehensive survey, not an election where people go, like let's do the same format where people submit what their issues were, how COVID impacted them. And so if you haven't asked me a question of what I need post-COVID, because post-COVID is different from pre-COVID. If you haven't asked me, how would I know what I want to, how would you inform yourself in terms of what to put in the budget?
Some innovators want government to make local solutions more accessible by committing to procuring them for the general public.
The science test is built right here in Ghana. Every single component here is constructed right here in Ghana. So government has to necessarily procure these science sets, and then we can use it to train the teachers, and then the teachers can now give these sciences to the students. Now, comparatively, it is more affordable for governments to purchase at higher volumes for these students to have the kind of education we've always wished for, that is practical education.
Some entrepreneurs in the tourism sector, like Mark, are advocating for more stakeholder engagements on ways businesses within the tourism sector can diversify as they navigate the economic shocks of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Let's get the Minister of Tourism and the people leading tourism, and then some particular stakeholders, and just sit them around in an open space and discuss what is going to be the next step forward, and creating a potentially a tourism concept that still adheres to the protocols of social distancing and everything, which still manages to bring people in. For instance, like virtual tourism, or something that can still generate the revenue, because you still have to pay tax one or the other way.
Stephen Miezan, the second national vice chairman of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce, agrees that reviving the tourism sector should be prioritized.
We're expecting a better and much voluminous stimulus package, and then more targeted, especially towards the tourism industry. Okay, because that is one of the sectors that has been greatly affected.
Poultry farmers hope that the scarcity of maize will be addressed to avoid the losses they made in the last quarter of 2020.
That we don't operate alone. We depend on other stakeholders, which is the maize farmers, the soybean farmers, and then those that produce wheat bran. So it is very important for us, if we see something which is going to help more maize production to increase, and also soybean production to also increase. Secondly, we also depend on importers of day-old chicks and also the local hatcheries. Now, since last year, when COVID came in, the prices of day-old chicks has escalated. We were buying day-old chicks around 5-6 cedis. Now it's almost 10 Ghana cedis.
Well, we focus now on the agricultural sector. A number of the stakeholders we spoke to said they wanted government to address the issue of access to credit. And others also wanted government to come out with a detailed plan on how it intends to develop the industry.
The Bunu region is noted for poultry farming and the production of a significant percentage of Ghana's poultry demand. The region is on record to have produced about 50% of Ghana's poultry products, with close to 5,000 poultry farmers actively participating in the industry in the region. The poultry industry has, however, been faced with many challenges, ranging from the unavailability of maize, which is critical in the preparation of poultry feed, and the importation of foreign poultry products. The farmers early this year lamented the unavailability of market for their products, mainly due to unfavorable competition with imported poultry products on the Ghanaian market. The farmers say a clear policy for the poultry industry is urgently needed to help grow the industry.
We, the poultry farmers, as at now, we are not aware of any clear direction, clear policy that is making us realize the rearing for food and jobs. As we are complaining now, in fact, our major problem is the movement of eggs. The eggs are not moving. And we don't know where to take the eggs to. Now, if there is a clear-cut policy that will let us realize where we are going as a poultry industry, You and I know that in the poultry industry, it's not about only eggs. In fact, what we are consuming in the country now greatly is the poultry meat. And we are importing it all over. So if the finance minister can capture the poultry sector and let us know what steps are they taking for us to be able to produce and then consume here locally the poultry meat.
We want to hear from the finance minister in their budget that they are come to make to include poultry farmers in the business, in the budget, so that we too poultry farmers, we can get our freedom. Because for nowadays, due to the climatical changes, the maize farmers are crying. Due to that, it has increased the price of the maize that we are purchasing on the market. And imagine preparing a feed for poultry birds with high cost, and the customers too are expecting the farmers to sell the goods at low cost. How can we survive? You see that thing? And due to that, in fact, most of our products are going bad.
CBAG has over 5,000 smallholder farmers across the country. And before production, that is when the cultivation season is to begin, we have challenges of access to financing. Financing from traditional banks, from money market sources, it's a challenge for farmers and for people within the food value chain in Ghana. And we're hoping that a lot of more interventions within the sector would help to first bring interest rates down, and the requirements for accessing financing also would be made flexible. One of the key challenges that we face is that a lot of, beyond even the farmers, SME processors, when they get to financial institutions, are being asked to come up with collateral. What we say to the financial institutions is that how many of these SMEs who are literally startups have these assets to make available? In terms of market access, as we've seen it constantly, when some of the crops are produced, having easy access to market where the farmer has premium in terms of revenue is difficult.
We head now to the Ashanti region where we interacted with the Ghana Union of Traders Association. They had a number of concerns, but key amongst them were taxes. But what about taxes was it for them? Let's find out in this video.
The Ghana Union of Traders Association members who are based in the Ashanti region say their business activities have been fraught with a number of challenges. As the majority leader in Parliament, Osei Chairman Sabunsui, is set to present the 2021 budget on Friday, March 12, the traders are calling on government to initiate policies that will ensure an enabling environment for businesses. For traders in the Ashanti region, one major concern is the issue of clearing of goods at the ports. They have thus reiterated a call for authorities to consider the construction of the Buankra Inland Port as a priority in order to lessen their burden. Anthony Opon is the Ashanti Regional Chairman of GUTA.
And exclusively what we are demanding here in the Ashanti region is something we've been hammering on and on, but it seems the authorities are not listening to us. When we go to the port and we clear our goods from Tema or Takrady, our brothers and sisters who are operating in Accra, Tema, Takrady, Cape Coast areas, they take their goods direct to their shops at a very reduced cost of transportation. We have to travel all the way from the port there to Kumasi here at a cost of 4,000 per 40-footer container. That's why we are so happy when the government came out with the Buankra project. We want it to be followed to the East Logical and make sure it's not on paper but it's in actuality. It must work so that we must also get that freedom of carrying our goods to our shops without any intimidations and harassment on the road by the customs officer.
The Ashanti Regional Chairman of GUTA, Anthony Opon, says their members also want government to avoid introducing new taxes that will worsen their plight as they are still struggling to recover from the negative impact of the coronavirus pandemic. The GUTA members also want government to come up with strategies to ensure traders have access to funds to cushion their businesses. As some shipping lines have already served notice of increasing their charges, The Ashanti Regional Chapter of GUTA wants levies at the port to be reduced.
As far as the budget statement is concerned, we expect the government to work towards extending soft loans to our businesses. Because as we all know and it's clear to everybody, the COVID has had a great impact on our businesses. The government, even though the government is hard pressed financially and is in need of revenue, but we don't expect new direct taxes that will affect our businesses.
Some traders at the Swami magazine also shared their expectations ahead of the budget presentation with Citi News.
Ofan Togo, uyini Togo wia. Odi betwama beduru Kumase, Kubase, Bumso. Said you must a customs officers nisi higher hono. Enya de no boa yen, e Kumase egu ye adwuma bebre.
Ye hwe ni mu se onye eye se ono no de minim se de obetimi aye ye import na ye glass ni sa no man e be se obeti import duties e san se arena by na ma China hono said the cost of fleet ne cost nti ye hwese obetimi atisa de ne so amai aye duty.
We've heard from various industries on their expectations of the budget. We will soon find out if any of them were met. But remember earlier I mentioned that this year the budget presentation wasn't done by the finance minister designate, Ken Ofori-Atta, because he's still recovering from COVID-19 complications. But for those of you who didn't watch the presentation, I'm sure you're wondering who did it on behalf of government. Well, let's play a guessing game. Who do you think it was? An interesting name there. But we'll find out in a few seconds who it actually was and what the major focus of the budget were. Let's count down together and find out, shall we? In 3, 2, 1, check it out.
In the budget presentation on Friday by the Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Caretaker Finance Minister Osei Mensah Bonsu, it was revealed that the total public debt of the country increased from 122 billion Ghana cedis in 2016 to 291.6 billion Ghana cedis as at the end of December 2020. This represents 76.1% of GDP.
The total debt stock mix was made up of a provisional figure of 141.780 billion for external debt and 149.83389 billion for domestic debt, accounting approximately for 48% and 51.4% of the total public debt stock, respectively. As a percentage of GDP, external domestic debt represented 36.99% and 39.09% respectively. Speaker, the total public debt has increased from 122 billion, that is 6.9 GDP, to 291.6 billion, that is 76.1% of GDP as at the end of December 2020. Included in the debt stock and the debt to GDP ratio at the end of 2020 are the following non-recurrent burdens that we had to deal with as a matter of urgency. One, the fiscal impact of COVID-19, 19.7 billion. The cost of the financial sector cleanup is 21 billion Ghana cedis. Cost of excess capacity charges paid to IPPs, that's 12 billion Ghana cedis. The impact of the reduction in growth from an average of 7% to 0.9% in 2020.
Mr. Osei Mensah Bonsu also indicated that, despite the negative effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, Ghana is better positioned to recover and rebuild an even more resilient economy.
Through our decisive policy response, we have managed to achieve major results that have made it easier for the people to cope with this unprecedented crisis. For example, our response through CAP has been vital in preventing social dislocations, deeper economic scarring, and damage to our economic prospects. These additional government expenditures in the face of declining revenues were necessary to save lives, protect livelihoods, and safeguard economic activities. Speaker, today, Ghana is better positioned to recover and rebuild an even more resilient economy, not only because we know how to do it, but also because the grace of God has been assured for this journey. Mr. Speaker, in the 3 years prior to the pandemic, as a government, we had a plan. We stayed focused, kept our discipline, kept our promises, and worked with integrity, creativity, and compassion. The economy saw a turnaround, and economic growth rate doubled, rebounding strongly from 3.4% in 2016 to average 7% annually.
He added that government is set to review upwards road tolls this year. The move, according to him, forms part of measures to accumulate revenue to fund road projects.
Mr. Speaker, to maintain improvement on our roads, and all of us in this house every now and then demanding of the Minister for Roads improvements in our road network and indeed improvement in our roads. Mr. Speaker, to maintain the improvement on our roads, government will review existing road tolls and align them with current market rates. This will form part of the framework for promoting burden sharing as we seek to transform our roads and infrastructure sector in a post-COVID era. Furthermore, in 2021, we will amend the Fees and Charges Miscellaneous Provisions Act 2018 that governs the setting of rates and tolls to accommodate an automatic annual adjustment that will be pegged to previous year's average annual inflation as published by the Ghana Statistical Service.
The minister further highlighted the performance of the education sector in 2020, as well as programs and activities planned for implementation in 2021.
Well, you've seen it all for yourself. What do you make of the budget presentation? Were you impressed? Do you think some sectors were left out? What is your opinion of the allocation for sectors like education, health, or infrastructure? Well, here are varied opinions on the various aspects of the economy.
Economist Courage Kingsley Marty expressed surprise at the high fiscal deficit. He shared his thoughts on the macroeconomic targets in the new budget.
I think when you look at the 2021 targets, the macro targets, a lot of the targets do not come to me as a surprise. The one that really comes to me as a bit of a surprise is the fiscal targets. And when you look at, of course, because the growth target of 5%, we already spoke about it, and I felt that it is not far-fetched, it is not extraordinary, and it could be possible on the basis of favorable base effect. When you look at inflation target of 8%, I think on the back of expected base effect again, and also because aggregate demand is still very weak and is expected to remain weak in 2021, that could be a drag on inflation. But we are also cautious about the recovery in oil prices, and of course, the new taxes that are being introduced as upside risks. But generally, I'm not so surprised about the inflation target. Now, the fiscal target is where I'm a bit surprised, if I should use that word, because now we are expecting to cut the deficit to 9.5% from 11.7% last year. Now, the surprise came in when I compare the 9.5% target to the indicative target that was provided in the expenditure in advance of appropriation bill, which gave us an indication of 8.3% for 2021. Now, that 8.3% made us believe that fiscal deficit compression might be faster this year, largely on the back of expenditure controls. But this budget is telling us that 9.5% target, which is higher than the indicative target of 8.3%, shows that the compression in the deficit is going to be slower than initially anticipated. And also the fact that expenditure cuts might not be as much as expected, or expenditure rationalization might not be as strict as expected. And so for me, the fiscal target is where I am taking a second look at to want to understand what is going into that target, especially given the kind of taxes that are being introduced or reintroduced into the economy.
However, the Ghana Chamber of Tourism Industries welcomed the government's announcement of a reduction in corporate income tax for players in the tourism sector. The tax has been reduced by 30% for companies within the arts, entertainment, and hospitality sectors as part of government's effort towards alleviating the scourge of the coronavirus pandemic on such entities.
Today, at the reading of the 2021 budget, the Parliamentary Affairs Minister, standing for the Finance Minister, made a profound statement, which to us as tourism industry players were excited about it. He said that there's going to be 30% income tax reduction for the second, third, and fourth quarter of 2021, which to us is a very good news, because we've been advocating for the tourism sector for the past 1 year. When COVID came in, the industry was badly affected, and we're calling on government to help the industry. Tourism industry or the hospitality sector pays over 20 taxes scattered all over, which tourism industry players are complaining every day about it, and we have been advocating about it. Tourism plays a major role in our economy and contribute heavily to our GDP. So anytime that we are talking about tourism sector, we are talking about trying to revive a sector that will directly affect your GDP. So to us, when we work very well with some of these policies on the tourism sector, it will go a long way to help the economy.
For consumers of petroleum products, government announced that prices of fuel and diesel is expected to go up by 5.7% at the pumps if the 2021 budget is approved by Parliament. This is as a result of the implementation of the proposed sanitation and pollution levies. Some commercial drivers have shared their views on the possible increase with City Business News.
Oh, that's what the government will try for us, because as a vehicle, we use so many things to run the vehicle. So if government reduce or we didn't pay the tax and turn it back to the fuel, then we are standing the same, and maybe it's going high, you see. So the government should look at for us is to subsidize for us more.
We buy fuel. This car will buy for about 200 cedis or 150 cedis a day, and you are telling me you are going to increase it because of sanitation. So that you tell me that because of that you are taking third and fourth quarter off how do you call it off me. What does it do? You are rather burdening me. It's going to affect our business in a way that we have to buy more fuel and work less.
Yes, I know the budget presentation, the State of the Nation address, took a large part of the show. But now let's move on to something that I think might interest you. Have you ever had an experience at a fuel station while filling up your tank that turned your day from very bright to very, very dim? A lot of people have had such experiences due to the negligence of fuel station attendants. But how was your experience and how did you deal with it? Well, you don't have to worry, because very soon, if you should find yourself in such a situation, you will be compensated. I'm sure you're wondering who or how that's even going to happen. Well, the details are in this video. Emmanuel Boateng's regular visits to a fuel station one day turned into a whole nightmare.
It was a diesel car, so he was supposed to give me diesel, but he gave me petrol, and I came back shocked. And apparently, you know, it was going to be a whole lot. So what I did was, looking at a young man there, he actually told me there was a situation for which, got him doing that.
Even though Emmanuel could not be blamed in any way for the incident, he still had to pay for his car to be fixed.
After everything got done, in the process of fixing the turn back, something also got broken. Yes. So, as I said, a young man telling me his situation, all that did was to just pay for everything all over again to avoid him getting sacked or something.
Emmanuel is not the only one who has been caught up in such an unfortunate situation. Many people have had much terrible experiences, costing them several hard-earned cedis. But to address these challenges, the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC, says it is rolling out a scheme in partnership with the Ghana Standards Authority to ensure fuel consumers are protected. Duncan Amwa is the Executive Secretary of COPEC.
What this Trusted Trader scheme does is to put in an insurance for the trotro driver, the average Ghanaian user. In case you buy fuel from any of these outlets, there are challenges. The liability doesn't even go to the outlet. A scheme is in place with an insurance package that says, okay, you've suffered XY damages because something wrongfully was occasioned. And so there's a compensation already in there for you. What that also means is that those stations that sign on to the trader scheme are simply going to be on a 24-hour surveillance to ensure that they do not do the wrong thing. This is to give further confidence to Ghanaian petroleum users and to ensure that people who, one way or the other, may suffer one inconvenience or the other from some of our outlets, wrong or bad service, at least can also receive something that gets them back to work.
Emmanuel believes such a move is timely, and if it was in place when his unfortunate incident happened, he wouldn't have felt the impact that much.
It would have been so good. It would have made a huge difference because I wasted about a little over 400 cedis because I paid the mechanic and the fuel, that is a half tank, which also went to waste and everything, added to the cost. So it would have made a huge difference. I wouldn't have wasted that much.
We end now with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. It's always fun to talk about this particular subject because it feels really good to know that we are actually making trade gains as a continent. Well, there's a new update on how things are faring with the agreement, but let me not take the sail out of the wind. Catch it all for yourself.
The African Continental Free Trade Agreement is projected to become the largest free trade area in the world. Currently, African countries trade 85% with the rest of the world and only 15% within the continent. With a continent's population of about 1.3 billion, its combined GDP currently accrues at $2.5 trillion. However, riding on the back of the AfCFTA, the continent's combined GDP will be $29 trillion by 2050. For this projection to come to fruition, a majority of the 55 countries on the continent must come on board, speaking at the 2021 Ghana International Petroleum Conference under the theme Positioning Africa's Petroleum Downstream for AfCFTA. General Secretary of the Secretariat, Wamkele Meni, said, already 36 out of the 55 countries have fully agreed to the rules of engagement for AfCFTA. This, he says, is a huge feat in the process of promoting intra-African trade.
We now have, out of 55 countries, we have 36 countries that have deposited their instruments of ratification, which means that these countries have legally accepted the obligations to open their markets, to reduce barriers to trade, to reduce barriers to investment, and to adhere to this single set of rules for trade and investment on the African continent. This is an unprecedented achievement for Africa, particularly given the history of Africa's economic growth or lack thereof in an integrated manner in the last 60 years.
Also speaking at the conference, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Baumia said the success of the AfCFTA depends on the harmony between industry and bureaucracy.
The AfCFTA provides industry with a perfect opportunity to contribute towards the realization of a first world Africa. As continental multilateral policies are formed, success will always depend on the operational framework and the commitment of all actors. Ladies and gentlemen, The AFCFTA is a decision of the authority of heads of state, but its success depends on the work of industry and the collaboration between industry and bureaucrats at the implementation level.
Well, all too soon. It's a wrap. This is where we bring down the curtains on this edition of the Business Weekly Show. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to check out our website for regular business news updates, citybusinessnews.com. And yes, the business dashboard on Citi TV, 7 p.m. sharp every weekday. My name is Michael Ogbodu. Thank you for tuning in. As always, please stay safe and stay informed. Catch you same time next week. Bye-bye.